All right. Let's see. And it is recording. Good.
Oh
Okay.
my God, you're really recording this?
Yeah. All right. Welcome back to another segment of It's Definitely Not Canon, the Untold Tales of World of Warcraft. I'm the host, Philip, and I'm joined again by my fellow Loremasters, Sarmen and Tams. And today we have a special guest, Tonia. Welcome to the program, Tonia.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And just as a quick recap of the previous episode, we're exploring the enormous legend of Eric Saurfang, brother of Varrock and Broxigar. Eric Saurfang, diseased, unloved, and the embodiment of patience. We've covered his early years, the scorn he faced by his parents, his admittance to a cult, and the removal of his apparently incurable disease. However, will it return? Where will his adventures take him next? So from what we were just discussing before we actually started the program, I think you were talking about a part of the legend that Sarmen and Tams and I had actually all but forgotten, which is, I think, the twin. He had a twin brother. It sounds like.
That is correct.
Yeah, we were filling in Tonia on what Eric Saurfang was all about, and we suddenly remembered.
What was the name of his brother? Does anyone have that on record?
Bill Saurfang, apparently.
Bill Saurfang. What was
Bill
his childhood
Saurfang.
nickname?
Billbob Saurfang.
Billbob
Not to
Saurfang.
be
Billbob
confused with
Saurfang.
Bilbo Saurfang.
Not Bilbo Baggins Saurfang.
No, not
Saurfang.
confused
No,
with Bilbo.
For legal
Bob.
purposes, his parents knew he couldn't be named Bilbo back in Saurfang.
So Tanya had some information as well about the birth of the twins.
Yes. It was actually documented later on that the nurse actually thought that the twin was stillborn and the mother had passed out.
Oh, that's so sad.
It was a sad story. And so she took him out of there because she didn't want to have a more emotional journey than what she was already on. And she took the child and it just, he just wasn't a screamer. So she found out, but she was unable to have children herself. So she actually kept it a secret and kept the child to herself to raise.
Now, I also... sorry, please go for it.
So, wait a minute. So you say if she wasn't able to have children, are you saying like Varrock and the youngest brother, like the two other brothers, were they not like, those aren't her biological children?
I think she was saying the nurse.
No.
Can't
The nurse. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. I mixed
Right. No, you misunderstood. It's okay.
Nurse Saurfang. That was her
The
name.
nurse, not Saurfang. She was not a Saurfang. It was just found that the child was a Saurfang, and the, the twin to Eric.
Now here's a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Philip.
I was going to say, here's a question that I'm sure the listeners have on the forefront of their mind. Was this an at-home birth, or was this like done in Orgrimmar General Hospital? And
it was an at-home birth.
It might have been during, it might have been on the battlefield, actually.
Were they being attacked?
It could have
been half in and half out.
Orcish General Hospital or a battlefield.
It could have been half in the battlefield at the house.
The legends are apparently a little shaky on this subject.
There was fighting going on right outside the door.
Definitely a time of conflict when the birth happened.
It was conflicted.
Conflict of many types.
So this baby, the nurse named this baby Billbob Saurfang.
Yes, and when he was young, she used to call him Billy Bob. Then she switched it to, as he grew, it was Billbob.
Interesting.
Not older, but in size.
I believe he still got older.
Not to derail too far from our subject matter, did Eric and Billbob, did they spend a lot of time together? Were they like rivals? Did they go to different orcish academies for war and or for patience, or what?
I think they had no idea about each
Yeah.
other.
That's
Then
right.
she actually had she wound up getting a transfer to another area. I don't believe it was in Kalimdor.
Okay, so it was all right, off Kalimdori soil.
Correct. So
You mean
therefore,
training, right?
Billbob and Eric were not.
I think
even
I
aware.
found like an old picture of Bill Bob's in his school uniform, and it was
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Wait, is he wearing a human Halloween mask?
he is wearing it. Well, it was like it was dress up day, and he was like in grade 4. Then it was like dress up day for the kids there. But like the crest on his little blazer, it said North Rend Academy for Orcs.
Oh, so he went north. He got sent pretty far north.
Yeah,
then.
I think
Okay.
like he like very remote for schooling.
you
Almost like a
wouldn't
really
think.
top boarding school for orcs.
That in Northrend there would be a boarding school or a school of any type.
Well, it's just
But
you know what they
apparently-
say about like the school district. If the school district is good, that means the property prices go up, and it's good for like
Right.
owners and everything. So his
Wow,
adopted
Arthas
mom was
must
just
have
kind of
been
thinking about all these socio-economic things and decided to put him in a good school district.
Wow.
And
But
nothing relates more to the legend of Eric Saurfang like socioeconomic policies in World of Warcraft. You can hardly mention one without the other.
Well, he was the brainy type, right?
That's true. Well,
Eric.
but
Eric the patient Sourfang.
and we're talking about Billbob.
Right.
But let's skip forward a little bit. So we know that, and I'm sure that the legend of of Billbob, his twin brother, will eventually intertwine with that of Eric's. But what did Eric? So last we heard, Eric had actually been cured. It sounded like of his disease after his 25 long years with the cult. What did he?
Sorry, the cold or the cult?
The cult.
I heard. Okay, I heard
I
of his battle
also
with the
had
cold.
like a reoccurring cold,
Really
like for
bad
decades.
cold.
It was something like just like it really was something. Just kept coming back. He lived with it.
For 25 years, no one could figure that shit out.
On top of having the green mange, it's so terrible. Like he really was patient to deal with all of this. But didn't we mention like he had a pet as well?
That's right. From what I recall, it was an enslaved leper gnome. Which,
I mean, Tonia is kind of like an authority on leper gnome history. Can you like enlighten our listeners about what leper gnomes are?
I do, but I do apologize, but I did find when the orcs, I'm sorry, Billbob and Eric, when they first seen each other again, I did find a new picture of that.
oh,
I
incredible!
A picture of him. All
Yes,
right.
We need to hear all about this.
Oh, I
posted it. Oh, is that how you spell Eric?
I don't know. That's how I spelled it. If it was incorrect, that was how it was given to me.
So for our listeners, don't mistake Eric with like our modern human spelling of Eric, E-R-I-C. But Tonia has corrected us here. It is spelled Eric, A-R-I-C, Saurfang.
And previous pictures of them before they had some kind of facial surgery because there was something that was going on.
I think we definitely have to put these
a
pictures
shame that
for
our viewers can't see.
Our listeners.
Well, you will be
Our
able to
listeners,
share
yes.
Yeah, I'll absolutely insert them in post.
Able to see it, but your listeners,
I mean, like they look so happy in this meeting. Like it's like like old friends here, just tussling around, palling around.
They got it together though, and they finally got some of the stuff like edged off of them, and surgery done to make them look a little bit more orcish.
Well, so here's
And-
the question. If
Oh yeah, sorry.
So if Billbob was sent to Northrend, and of course, as we know, Eric
Yeah.
had spent pretty much 25 years of his life just sitting in like a chamber of sorts in like a cult in Orgrimmar, then what was the catalyst that drove them together for their fated meeting, and how did they get so jovial about their meeting? Was what I seem to vaguely recall is that there was a summons for war in Northrend, but I could be mistaken. It could have been something else. Does anyone recall exactly what brought them together?
Yeah, they were gonna fight the Lich King.
And they
This is the time where Arthas was still on the throne, and he hasn't even woken up from his slumber. Real estate values were going up in the area, as we all know.
of course.
The whole, the school district was popping. Zombies were just, idling around, not attacking people, and the war was, what was the war about at this point? Can anybody recall?
I think Philip knows a little bit about that.
Oh boy, let me tell you. So this is the war so there's like the Scourge Wars and stuff like that, but this precedes that. So this was this is a war that largely went unrecorded by history, which is why you probably haven't heard the name of the war that I'm about to tell you right now.
Is this the war about property?
It's it encompasses that war.
I mean, everything is intertwined. The more wars, the lower the property value.
Yeah, this is the Great Socioeconomic War, which actually had very little to do with. I mean, in a very indirect way. But, the war isn't important. We're here to talk about Eric Saurfang. So let's get back to why he was even there, right? So this war, they already called Orgrimmar's best and strongest warriors to Northrend to deal with the actual Scourge, controlled by the sleeping, the resting Arthas. And so all of the brawniest frontline soldiers had already been summoned, and they already donned their winterproof vests and all manner of gear, took the zeppelins and headed over. In the second wave, they were finding that the Scourge resistance was actually pretty formidable. So they were running into abominations. They were running into just a lot of things that just a meathead with an axe just really wasn't prepared to take on. So they said, what we need? We need tacticians. We need people who can think, right? It's not enough to just throw orcs at the problem until it goes away.
So, seeing abominations and all, did they immediately think of Eric Saurfang?
They absolutely did not. Very few people. Again, because at this point, really, a lot of people thought Eric was dead. And his parents.
It was an afterthought.
Right. Oh. So from what I recall, the legend, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong at any point, but I recall he woke up from his essentially 25-year meditation. People thought he was, a moldy statue that was just gross, and no one wanted him. They almost thought he was furniture. And and he saw that these people who were not, big beefy warriors, but were in fact sort of the more scholarly crowd, were getting on the Zeppelin bound for Northrend. And
he thought, here are my people, here is a place and, a meaning for me.
Exactly. And we know how starved for attention he was as a kid, and the fact that he was willing to just be with a cult that I guess didn't really like him for 25 years showed just how much he was trying to find a place for himself in the world of Warcraft. Yeah, so I remember he boarded the Zeppelin and with the rest, and because orcs are not necessarily great at taking attendance, no one knew that he was there or tried to stop him. And then if someone wants to take over for after he...
Yeah, isn't it like, from what I recall, it was literally happenstance that he met Billbob right after departing the Zeppelin as soon as it touched down in Northrend? And
I think...
I think how the story goes was like Billbob, he became a school teacher himself at the Northrend Academy for Orcs. He just wanted to give poetry.
Poetry. Wow. Okay. That's a
Great. Yeah, that's a.
He was like a very quiet guy. He had a lot of thoughts. He's very expressive in his writing, and the school was in disrepair. The property values went down. The school district wasn't that good, so he had to basically go and make pamphlets and like kind of field the canvas the public for donations for his school district. So a really busy area was the port in Northrend. And, as people got off the Zeppelins, he'd be like, please donate to the Northrend Academy. And, as Eric stepped off, he stopped.
He immediately donated nothing. Because he had nothing.
Actually, is that... Tonia, can you give us a refresher is that part of the lore? He stepped off, he ran into his long-lost brother, and in fact, honestly, when they first met, he had nothing to donate. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, I was finding that... when did you guys say that he met up with his brother? And where?
Early 40s.
So I got a quick question. So Tonia sent us a photo of Eric and Billbob Saurfang. And one of them is pulling the other's hair while putting them in a chokehold.
Yes. I have found...
Is this the moment captured when Eric stepped out of the ship?
I'm not sure, right at that moment.
I think that photo was taken later.
Donations.
I believe it's when they got back to land, and the woman that Eric was found to be in love with came running up to them, and she was much surprised because she was two-faced to the men, because she was also dating Billbob.
Oh my goodness. Wait, I didn't even know.
Did you have any idea about this woman's existence?
This is mind-blowing right now. Wait, did they have a shared love interest?
The same love interest for this woman, Nevaeh Blackhand.
Nevaeh Blackhand.
Yeah.
Are you sure it's not pronounced Never Blackhand?
Excuse me. It is Nevaeh. It is
very
Nevaeh.
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's excuse me. It was Nevaeh Blackhand, and that is when she wound up taking the picture. I think she put it on some sort of orc.
How did they meet? How did they both meet this woman? Because for
Eric
a lot of
I believe
in a furniture. So how did he? Did she sit on him once?
I believe that he went and when his brother was went over to fight the war at the Scourge in Northrend. He met the woman because she was there.
So
and then he came back. And
was she a fellow schoolmistress or a teacher?
No, I think that her mother was she was Griselda, and she ran off with, she was of the Blackrock clan, and she ran off with Turok, a rogue ogre.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I do have a picture of her if you would like to see that. It's Nevea, Black Hand.
Again, our viewers,
We'll be able to see
listeners
those.
have no
Oh
idea what
wow,
they're
this is
No,
looking
your
at, but
listeners.
this is
it
great
looks
because
exactly like another work.
but this is great. This is like a color retouched photo from like thousands of years ago.
It is. It is. They,
It's fantastic. The quality.
the quality that they have now to be able to show these and
Wow.
actually pull in some, but also not pull in everything. So, it is. It is sadly to say that she had to choose one or the other, and they started fighting and going back off the pictures. And, I'm not sure which one really won, but I believe that she was killed in the process of all.
Oh man, tragic.
Oh.
Absolutely
It was
tragic.
tragedy. It is tragedy that neither one of them got the love of their life.
Wow.
But
And
they do know
who would have
they
that?
wound up finding out that they were actually the brothers that they had missed out on all of their
Wow.
lives.
So they really reconciled and came together over the death of Never Black Hand. Nevea Black Hand.
Nevea.
I'm sorry, my dialect is not great for Northrend.
Right.
Or
right.
That's
North
totally
Rand
excusable.
language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tough
I
language.
don't know. I think, they it is a tough language. It is. I agree with that.
So
But
now we know that we can hardly talk about the legend of Eric Saurfang without also talking now about Billbob Saurfang.
Nivea and also
Right.
Billbob.
So I think we need to shift gears here really quickly and just talk about what. So they're in the midst of this war, the socioeconomic war, which is a subset of the, of course, the Scourge War, just an all-encompassing kind of war. But so as far as I know, they're still kind of just fairly fresh off the Zeppelin at this point. They've already killed the love of their life.
killed the love of their life.
So
As in the midst of them fighting because they were,
oh
who
no,
did she love? Blah blah blah.
of
Hey,
course.
she's here for me. No, she's here for me. And wait a minute, we look kind of similar. And then they started fighting, and she got in between.
Oh,
I
she
don't
took
know.
like an arrow to her heart.
I'm not sure if it was an arrow because they were
Could have
actually,
been a fist into her
it could have been a
chest
knife.
cavity.
Oh boy.
It could have been
knife.
maybe not a knife, but back then it was a cleaver or something.
Oh wow. Do you know whose cleaver it belonged to?
No, till this day they will not say.
And I guess they didn't
been
have
Because
fingerprint
nobody knows. They
identification
can't say
back then.
anything, but
Oh, wow.
back
Yeah.
then, they I think it brought them closer because neither one of them wanted to say who
It was
actually
my cleaver.
hit the final blow to her
Wow.
skull.
That's
and
a little bit morbid, but also touching.
It is touching. It was.
So did the cleaver go through her skull and all the way through to her chest cavity?
I don't have those kind of pictures.
Okay, what kind of autopsy was done on this?
Because of the fact that it was
Yeah.
such a long time ago, I don't think that they had that much in to where they could actually send me extra stuff because they just don't have it anymore. Got lost.
And honestly,
Fire.
this is like, this is the World of Warcraft, not the world of, anatomical sciences.
Paper
paper trails.
There was
and
no
stuff,
paper trails.
I'm sorry, that's
during
another
battle, you can
podcast
fight anywhere.
that I was involved in World of Paper Trails, and I kind of got confused.
Yes, wrong one.
Of course.
Wrong show. Wrong show.
Wrong one.
Wrong show.
And just
This was definitely.
Yeah, let's. I was just gonna say, let's. Oh, please go for it.
Sarmen, did you want to do a quick plug for that other podcast you're involved in?
The world. I forgot the name.
I can see it
World
made
Paper
up.
Trails. It's on every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Be sure to check out Sarmen. That's his personal podcast where he explores the administrative red tape and government oversight that occurs in the history of World of Warcraft.
It's a very forgettable podcast that even me, the creator and owner of it, does not remember and sometimes does not attend the podcast.
Sorry, Philip, go on.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. These are all things that need to. I mean, far be it from me to stop a shameless plug for another podcast mid podcast.
A competing podcast
right.
too.
I mean, to say it's competition is pretty generous, but people are gonna want to hear our podcast. But yeah, let's return here to Eric. So. Yeah, he's in a strange new land. He has killed the love of his life, but reunited with his long-lost twin brother.
And that's not a guaranteed fact. That's not a fact that he was the one that killed her.
Oh, sure, yeah. He was at the event in which the love of his life was killed. By whom? It's impossible to say, really.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely. That's how World of Warcraft does its judicial processes. But it's a very, I mean, let it be said, World of Warcraft is nothing if not fair. So did Eric use this most recent tragedy to fuel his motives, his impetus? What was his driving factor now that I mean, sure, he's still expected to participate in war. I don't think personal tragedy has excluded him from that. But did it propel him to new heights, or did he sink to an unforeseen...
A further low.
Yeah.
Where did he go? He's already at a very low point in his life, right?
I think it projected him upwards a little bit with his newfound brotherhood. You know, he didn't find the love from his older or younger brother, and now he was a middleman with Billbob, and they could forge a bond.
He still didn't find love in that. So this is the third love he lost. The female.
Oh boy, he just.
Sorry, can you refresh this on the first two?
I didn't realize that.
Wasn't it the love of his brothers?
Oh
yes,
right.
And I guess honestly, his parents didn't love him either, so he lost.
Oh my god, 5.
So he's
5 loves. That's very tragic.
Why he's mostly
and the nurse didn't care to take him.
6 loves lost.
A lot of the lore has put him in the back burner with his brother Billbob, because it focuses on both of his other brothers, the oldest and the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And the middle ones are kind of just tucked away, and we're trying to pull forward some more information on these brothers that lost out on all kinds of love.
Just a loveless duo right there. At least, if nothing else, Eric had his love of patience to guide him through his darkest days.
What was Billbob known for? What was he? Billbob I forgot his signifier. While Eric was the patient, Billbob was someone refresh my memory.
Billbob the Hobbit, right?
Was he particularly short? I don't recall that being. It could have been
shorter, yes.
Oh, he was.
I think as a child, he was the size of a bean.
Excuse me.
His head was the size of a bean.
He grew into his body, right?
Correct. But, and at that point, his head got a little bit bigger than his body. Well, not bigger than his body, but his head was not proportioned.
So he was Billbob the unproportioned. I think that was... Or Billbob the uneven? I don't remember what It
And
was.
as
been
hobbits don't
Billbob.
exist in the Warcraft lore, they're better known as leper.
Oh no.
Oh my.
Well, we do have to circle back at a certain point and talk
We
about
do.
Eric's pet leper gnome. How did he come by that?
Yeah,
Did he get
what a
that
complicated relationship that was.
And
while
who's to
he's?
say that's not Billbob?
Oh no.
What's that, Sarvin? You're falling apart over there.
Oh.
It
Are
could be
you okay?
Billbob. Could be Billbob.
You think it would be Billbob, but it's not. It's it was their friend.
Was it Billbob's lost clone?
It could have been,
Are
No,
you,
and
it could have
they
been.
went around and pretended to be
Oh my.
triplets.
This is getting very complicated. What an interesting
Yeah.
life he led.
Oh my god.
here I was worried there wouldn't be enough material about that we could recall about Eric, and now there's such a wealth that we actually can't move the story forward. But to attempt to do just that,
we love.
oh yeah, no, this is like the meat and potatoes of what we do, like getting really immersed within the stories of these characters that definitely exist. But so
I will tell you, just to interject, I apologize, but when
please.
they were trying to find cures for leper gnomes, that is how Eric and Billbob got their faces a little bit better. Because they were they tried to pretend that they were a set of triplets. Excuse me. And when they were trying to, they would volunteer to try out cures, and it actually did cure some of their facial features.
So they
And
volunteered to be test subjects.
Yes, because they were, they wanted everybody to believe they were.
Hang
really
on, I think I have information about the name of the
I got
doctor
a question.
who treated
I got a
them. I
Oh,
think the
oh.
doctor's name. I think, guys, you remember this, right? Tonia, you're absolutely right about them participating in these experiments. Do you guys remember the name of the doctor? It was Professor Putricide.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Oh,
That is right.
Lord
What a
have mercy.
huge canonical historical fact.
Oh my
Ah.
gosh.
That explains so much. And he was in Northrend too.
And
At the
here we
time.
were as
Right.
as champions of Azeroth fighting him, and he may have been doing that bad stuff in Icecrown Citadel or Naxxramas to fund his research to cure children of green mange
And leprosy.
Yes.
and leprosy,
And the incurable disease of being
leprosy.
a gnome.
Like, this is really tragic that he had to. It was like a means to an end for Professor Putricide.
Yes.
Oh.
It's a shame that research meant so much to his test subjects, but his test subjects meant so little to him.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, luckily they were not part of the victims, as Tonia was saying.
I know. I believe that
It was a positive outcome for them.
Leper Gnome was sort of a victim because they were unclear if he was really a leper gnome or possibly one of the undead gnomes.
Oh no.
So it was going back and forth, and that's why a lot of the cures that they tried on him wouldn't work. So it was a lot of back and forth, and he got a lot of crap.
Wow.
Because they really just because where they were thinking that the triplets, two of them was getting better with their facial features, and the third, nothing worked on him.
Oh no.
Oof.
So they were really unclear, and it was back and forth with a lot of the doctoring and the whispers in the towns. How that would be. Of
course.
whether he was a leper gnome or was he undead gnome.
Oh.
Wow.
And why would it work on the other two if it wouldn't work on him?
This is blowing my mind.
It is.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Yes.
Eric Saurfang is really turning out to be the most interesting of the Saurfang brothers.
Absolutely. Well, his
Are you sure it's just Eric, or would it be
Eric
Billbob
and Billbob.
Yes.
Like Eric and
You
Billbob.
cannot forget the Billbob.
although what I mean, all legends eventually have to come to an end, and I'm wondering if where I can't recall exactly where Eric Saurfang made like his downfall was. Does anyone even remember if he died the ultimate hero or just in absolute like no one remembers his name at all? Really, I kind of feel like it's that latter one, but I can't remember. I mean, I guess they're not mutually exclusive.
Well, we know that nobody remembers his name at this point, but how did this happen?
Yeah, how did he meet his
It was
end?
erased from history because it was so grand that people could not handle the truth about him.
So okay, he's in. Oh, sorry.
What was his truth?
We don't know.
Well, he's in Northrend. There's a war going on. I assume that he did something incredibly notable and noteworthy. Because you literally, these Saurfang siblings are just absolutely just the stuff of legends. One of them like took a chunk out of Sargeras. The other one is just like a legendary figure within the Horde. So it stands to reason that both Billbob and Eric would be launched to meteoric heights.
I'm really scratching my head over it. I feel like this was blocked out of history, out of the history books for a reason.
Actually, no.
I
Okay.
believe it.
Oh, sorry. Go for it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think what I remember hearing, and this is just hearsay, so don't necessarily take it with a grain of salt, but I think one of the things that made him a hero, and that eventually sort of led to his downfall later in his life, was that he was sabotaging some of the experiments that Professor Putricide was doing. He deals with a lot of volatile chemicals, and even though Eric Saurfang was ugly and disfigured and diseased, less so now, of course, but Professor Putricide, they sent Eric and Billbob to Ice Crown Citadel to just kind of see what was going on, see if they could come up with a strategy, some tactics on what to do. And lo and behold, they were indoctrinated again by the sweet susurrations of Professor Putricide, saying, hey,
Oh no.
I can cure you of what ails you. And gosh darn it if Eric didn't learn his lesson the first time. But eventually he came to see that what Professor Putricide was doing was abhorrent and just like really, it was just really bad. The suffering that he was causing only, it outshone the results. So from what I recall, he sabotaged some of the levers in Professor Putricide's lair, and a couple pipes burst unintentionally, and sure, I mean, it saved some of the experiments from being, or the test subjects from being experimented on, and I think they got away with Billbob's help, but Eric took a real faceful those chemicals.
Wow.
Yeah.
So his face was already deformed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
No.
So do you think he worsened his disfigurement?
I think it might have fixed it. You know how when it's like so deformed that any further deformity is an improvement? Is this the case here?
Well
then.
So he was clearly plagued at that point.
Apparently. Yeah.
And
so happy and joyous he was of this event. When he looked in the mirror.
Well, just for the sake of again the file size, I think what I recall happening is that died an unsung hero.
Yes.
Well,
After having
Just
saved
circle back there.
countless
he was
test
very
subjects.
he was very happy about his newfound. He looked handsome. He looked like a handsome man at this point. He just like his crushed, disfigured face turned into a normal and like not an orc even. He
He looks
doesn't even look like an
human.
orc anymore. Yeah, he just looks like a human now.
Can you imagine
And
the? Oh, sorry.
and then he walked into the sunset and arrived at Stormwind and lived happily ever after.
Wait, what?
Whoa,
This is
what?
an entirely different ending than the one I just said.
Well, I mean, are you sure it was Eric that did that, or was that Billbob?
We don't know. They were identical twins.
Exactly, because there was
Including their
another, but the
Including
one.
their deformities.
Jeez.
So one of them actually did get away like that, and who knows where he lived out the rest of his life in happy existence, where,
Yeah? What do you want?
realizing that to get away from everything was the only way to be happy.
And we don't know which one, as they were
No.
identical twins.
But we do know what happened to the second one.
And even though we said identical, one was a leper gnome.
No, he wasn't a leper gnome. They were all through. They were both, hanging out with their leper gnome friend
Oh, okay.
that they tried to be triplets with. Is that not what the lore was?
I think that's what the lore was.
I think that's what the lore's gonna have to be.
Yeah.
So two orcs and a leper
when one went
walk
one way, the other one got into, harmful. He went off with his gnome friend, his leper gnome friend, and if you don't mind me saying this part of the story, it's a little sad.
Oh, please.
But they were definitely going to a lot of the bars or pubs, and they got into brawls and a lot of things that was happening. But then they all decided to go on a gnomish expedition, and somebody found out that he wasn't a gnome, a leper gnome.
No.
This is wild. I feel
Well,
like this is something we need to cover in the next episode.
This is better than what I actually thought happened. See, I thought I don't know, maybe like they went into the sunset, opened up their own barber shop, and then it burned down and both of them died. But this, at least they didn't die.
No, he was killed. He had to be killed by the insane leper gnome.
Well, I spoke too soon.
Oh, yeah, no, I think if there's one thing that the legends can all agree on, it's that Eric Saurfang is no longer among the living. Will we encounter him in Shadowlands? I think
Could it be Eric or is it Billbob?
Well, Billbob went with the expedition.
Oh, okay.
And I believe the leper queen had him killed by the insane leper gnome. When they found out that he wasn't really a leper gnome.
Oh boy. Okay, another story for another time. For now,
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and Tonia, thank you for joining us.
I appreciate having been invited.
Absolutely.
To the lore story time. I'm glad I could contribute a little bit and learn as well.
For sure. All right. Until next time, then, listeners.